Welcome back to Pure Michigan Sports. It's Christian Peck-Dimit, that side. It's Alex Deimel. It's been a minute, and
It has been a minute.
but we're back, baby. We got through the dog days of summer. Sports are back, which means we are back. It's episode 16, and we're glad to be back.
We are glad. I mean, I looked at it when we were just talking about it pre-show. It has been a month since we recorded. But that it doesn't mean we haven't been churning out content. For our followers, listeners, we have a blog now. We have a Substack. Go subscribe to it. Go read our stuff. Christian just dropped a hell of a blog on Kansas football, as he's been living out there for the past 2 years or a
Past
year?
year, yeah,
Past year. Okay.
we got a new location because half of my apartment is in boxes. We will no longer be in Kansas by the time the next show we record the next show. But yeah, I'm deep in Big 12 country, so I got a lot of Big 12 futures. Alex has an Ole Miss future out, and he's working on another one. I don't want to tease it for him.
I am working on one, and I just do want to say it was kind of beautiful that this came in the mail today.
Gorgeous.
If you're a college football fan,
Very nice.
well, no, let me rephrase. You can't call yourself a true college football fan if you've never had a Phil Steele magazine. I aspire to be like this man. It is just a booklet of stats and info from the past year to the past 5 years and his predictions. And he's honestly, it's kind of awesome. He's a little cocky about it, where he's like, here's my accuracy in my in my preseason rankings, and here's everyone else's, and here is how much better I am than everyone else. Like, he gets it. He's not fucking around.
Well,
So
we're trying to go along that same track. We've got futures out. Pure Michigan Sports is the name of the show. It's the name of the podcast. It's also the name on the Substack. So we're churning out our futures picks and, long articles, blogs explaining why. Alex has a ton of them lined up. I know that he's got a churn of content ready, and that you can only get it there. We'll tease it sometimes. We'll mention it in the show. But the Substack, which is free right now, Pure Michigan Sports. Go hit subscribe. You got a ton of futures, a ton of picks, and once the sports season starts in earnest, we'll get you thoughts on games and everything sort of as it happens.
It also, we were talking about a pre-show again. It's just going to be so much easier to be able to pump out a quick blog rather than like have to organize and record the whole thing. Not that we wouldn't rather do that, but it's way easier to get our thoughts out in text form rather than I guess on video form. But in realizing that we haven't done this in over a month, or maybe just over a month,
right around a month,
nobody's heard my ranting about the trade deadline. I know you
Which
have.
Is unfortunate. I have, yeah.
But nobody else has. So, and it is kind of perfect timing because about 20 minutes ago, I just got the notification that Trey Sweeney's being called up. Literally, and I can say this doesn't sound as bad now considering he's been on a tear, but he's literally a white hobby. We traded like one of the number one, like probably one of the biggest like trade targets.
I love that
when it came to starting pitching. And Jack Flaherty was like one of the most sought after guys. Everybody was talking about him. Where the fucking Miami Marlins are getting massive packages for a guy that was like 2-9 at the trade deadline, and we pull a white Javier Baez and a catcher first baseman that nobody's ever fucking heard of. Seriously, that's all we can get
for that. Actually, yeah.
Like
any solace in the fact that Scoobs is still in a Detroit uniform?
I guess in the sense that like they got up there and they were like, we had no plans of trading him. I at least like that. If that's actually the case, I doubt that they were like rejecting phone calls about him, but they're at least like not fully in rebuild mode in the sense that they're looking to have some guys that they keep long term. But why? He's white Javi. We just got white Javi. Like the guy, he has a subpar bat and has like half decent glove. He's not going to be anything good. He's practically already a bust. He was a first round pick of the Yankees, I think in like, I don't know, 21, 2020, something like that. I don't know. Definitely not happy about that return if you couldn't tell. The Mark Canha return, I think it's Eric Silva. It's all right. Just another kind of pitcher won't be up until 25, 26. And then the Chafin and Kelly deals, it's two separate deals to Texas, kind of came out of nowhere, at least for me. I guess Chafin had that guy is just the king of getting traded. I think he's been traded at the like 4 out of the last like 5 deadlines, and then just signs another 1 year. So I don't know what to think about that. I love the Sheriff. He's definitely entertaining, but I think they probably got what they needed out of him, and same with Carson Kelly. Um, and this is a Texas team that seemingly, has a little bit knows what they're doing with their prospects. I mean, Wyatt Langford's raking, not that he was in the minor leagues for very long, but hopefully we can get something out of that. And then I've been to the last 2 games. Well, we won today. I wasn't there, but what's today? Thursday, Wednesday night, and Tuesday night. Was at both games. I think I'm in love with Kerry Carpenter. I apologize to my girlfriend, but I think I'm in love with Kerry Carpenter. The guy,
she might not want to hear
that. 3 homers in 2 games after missing, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, something like that. Guy was just raking. And you love to see it. And that was the best part was he hit 2 bombs in his first game back. Then he starts off yesterday. He's like has like 3 or 4 strikeouts and then comes up. I believe tied the game. Yeah, he tied the game, and then it was I look like the biggest idiot in the world because they pinch hit. It was a pinch hit walk off for Akil Baddoo. He's walking up to the plate, and I'm just like, what the hell? Why are we pinch hitting this absolute loser? And of course, he walks it off. And everybody's around me like, you're an idiot. I was like, hey, I will gladly look the fool for a walk-off victory. If that's the spin zone, like, take it and run.
I was going to say, as negative and as critical as you've been for a while and for the past couple of minutes here of the Tigers, and not saying it's not deserving. I'm right there with you, but only now I believe it's 4 games back from 500, a couple of late victories over Seattle. Are we feeling a little bit better? Javy had that great hit. Wasn't quite a walk-off, but go ahead in the 8th. And then you just talked about the heroics from last night. You got Colt Keith. You got some bats that are doing a little bit better. Any sort of feeling of picking diamonds out of the rough in terms of this season?
No, because it doesn't matter. Like, I honestly, I'd
you can
rather
still carry those over, though. You know what I mean?
This is what I mean. Would you believe me if I told you that Torque hit 30 bombs last year? Because he did. But you didn't hear anything about it because they were all at the end, way after the Tigers were completely done. So if you're not going to do it at the start, don't waste time at the end and then end up with a shitty draft pick.
So you're saying you want full tank at this point?
Yeah, as entertaining as wins are, I would, if I know we're not going to make the playoffs, yes. And it's clearly they were sellers at the deadline. They're not trying to make the playoffs. Yeah. So why now? Why now, man? I don't get it. But it is what it is. It's the epitome of being a Detroit Tigers fan right now. But as much as the return for Flaherty pissed me off, there were some good things. I think they've kept Torque down long enough. Like I asked, when he went on his little tear in Toledo, that was like, oh fuck, if they call him up again, I'm gonna lose it. They've kept him down. I think the plan is to keep him down for the rest of the year, which is good. I mean, he clearly needs to develop more. I think they called him up way too early, thinking, he was a 3-year college guy. They could get enough out of him, and they weren't. So it's good that they're keeping him down. We're on to 25. Right now,
that's the mindset moving on already.
We're on to 2025,
and it's hard.
I hope I can. I hope I can say that, and then we get to September and like, oh, they're like in a wild card race or something. Do I think that's going to happen? Though. Absolutely fucking not. There's just no chance.
You just beat Seattle a couple times, and they're ahead of you in the wild card race. That's got to feel a little good, but really, I think the trouble you're facing is how good the rest of the AL has been, and you look even within our own division, the Central was supposed to be the most wide open, have the most parity out of maybe any division in baseball, and the Twins and the Royals have been absolutely killing it. And of course, you don't even need to mention the Guardians up at the top. To have those 3 teams above you, not only that, well above you, you're 7.5 games back from a spot right now. I'm not saying it's completely out of your hands or not your fault. But the AL has been way better than expected this season.
It's really funny because you listed all those teams, and then you had the White Sox that just went on like a 25 game or something losing streak. Like that's the thing. And I saw this argument the other day that I do want to get into really quickly of like, White Sox fans are at like the worst level of pain or whatever. White Sox fans have had winning seasons at least the past 10 years. They've had one winning season. The Tigers fans haven't. It has been continual, like just dog shit and pain.
Are you trying to argue for pity here?
God damn right I am. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't want to hear like, oh, like this is the worst thing ever. I would rather have a team that is like dog shit for 1 year, comes back the next year and kicks ass. But we don't have that. We just suck for 10 years.
Yeah, I got nothing for that. We've talked about it. It's almost worse in most sports, I should say, to be in purgatory than to be in hell. And it's an analogy, Catholics. It's not actually that. It's not equivalent, but this idea that you're doing what Alex was just complaining about of get to a point where you're probably not going to make the playoffs, then inch yourself up enough that you're not giving yourself the benefit of the doubt in the draft or in the lottery in the case of some sports either. It feels like Detroit sports a lot, outside of the last few years in most sports, thankfully, have done just that, where it's like, all right, we're going to slot ourselves in like the 10th seed in the NBA or like 4 games back from a wild card spot and then just die there. That kind of hurts.
And like it's honestly it's different for the Wings, where the Wings, like, it came down to that final game. And no, you can't do what the Wings did and go on like 7-game pointless streaks, like not even losing streaks, but like 7 games straight without a point. They couldn't even get an overtime loss. So there's that, but then they also, like, it came down to that last game where they had a shot at the wild card. They obviously didn't. But it's been like these little blips in like August and September where it's like, oh my God, the Tigers could be good. No, way too fucking late.
Too late.
It's just not going to happen. So I'd rather like be ass from the start and stay with it. Don't tease me at the end and then put yourself in a worse position come draft time and rebuild and development time. Maybe I'm crazy for saying that, but I don't. No. It's been 10 years of the same shit.
As long as we're on the negative side of Detroit sports, we got to hit. We are the Pure Michigan Sports Podcast. A former Michigan Wolverine, Chris Evans, was carted off the field 6 minutes ago at the Bengals joint practice after being injured. So that's super cool, but a little throw out to that. Speaking of injuries, the Lions seem to be getting JJ as well. He had a meniscus injury after that Saturday game.
I'm sorry, Vikings Jason.
He's the first. Let me pull up the stat while I'm talking before I say something that's untrue. He had a meniscus injury. They went in. They sort of went before the injury or before the surgery and said it's either going to be 4 to 6 weeks or 4 to 6 months, depending on what we find, and because of what we find, depending on what we have to do. They found that they needed a complete restructuring, 4 to 6 months. He'll be out for the whole, at least regular season. Here's the stat. J.J. McCarthy is the first quarterback drafted in the first round in the common era, that's since 67, to miss his entire rookie season due to injury. The first since 67.
Really?
Yeah. First off, a wild stat, something I didn't know. Second off, of course, it happens to the Vikings. No, I wouldn't have guessed that either.
I feel like we've had like a lot of first round, or maybe they weren't quarterbacks, but I feel like we've had a lot of first round
injuries. Yeah.
I'm also shocked it wasn't Penix. You'd think with all the fucking shit that guy's been through that it would have been him first.
He was maybe never even going to start anyways, but yeah, you got to feel for Vikings fans. Jordan Addison, they got the X-rays back a couple of hours ago.
For Vikings fans. I can't wait to kick their ass this year. But on that note, the amount of prayer circles I saw on Twitter for Jahmyr Gibbs was a little concerning.
Like, if we can't talk injuries without talking about the Lions right now.
We got Gibbs, Terrion Arnold,
who was briefly in concussion protocol before thankfully coming on.
We had a couple more that were, I think, out for the year, didn't we?
I believe so. There's some struggles going on over in the Detroit campus. Started with those fights with the Giants, which I sort of go both ways on, because on the one hand, I want to see the passion I want to see the energy and the effort and showing that you're caring. On the other hand, it's the Giants. Don't get yourself injured or worked up, look stupid, look unprofessional, get a massive fine like you did over the fucking Giants in a joint preseason practice. So I sort of go both ways on that, but the injuries have hurt.
Yeah, I think we lost John Kaminsky for the year, which is actually a pretty decent hole there at
That's
defensive
massive.
line. And we've lost a couple of others, but I don't know. As long as they're healthy by week 1, at least like Arnold, Gibbs, those guys, I'll be okay. I hate seeing those Twitter updates. That's where I'm like, I need to stay off Twitter, all this stuff until week 1.
But you got to know.
But at the same time, you got to know. You got to know what to expect.
And that was actually there are a couple different Michigan or Detroit-focused reporters that are with me on this, but that was one of the question marks going into this preseason, into training camp at all. How much depth do the Lions have rushing the passer at those edge spots? And losing Kaminsky only makes that question mark, a bigger font, puts it in bold, because that was already a struggle. I've got a stat here for you. Aiden Hutchinson accounted for last season 37.4% of the Lions' pressures. If you got pressured by the Lions as a quarterback, there was greater than a 37% chance that it was Hutch. For the usual edge rusher apparently falls within the 27 to 30 range. And Hutch is great, but that's ridiculous.
This is also a guy that was getting double teamed.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Entire back half of the year.
Because
back half of the year.
Because you can. Why wouldn't?
Because there's no
one on the other side.
Yeah. So it's obviously like that's not great, but let's be real here. The power last year came from the offense. It was not a defensive team by any means. We got some help in the secondary.
We did, but it almost shows you, to me, that's puts more pressure on the defense, because now it's like, where you can get when you have negative secondary. You need to improve. You need to take a step forward, because look where you can be.
That's fair. That is fair. I do want to kind of get over, obviously, the Pistons schedule release. We had that come out at like an hour before we started recording.
Yeah, yep.
Well, we got one nationally televised game.
One nationally televised game, baby, which, to be honest with you, I'm no math major, but that is infinite percent more than what I expected. Of course, infinity times 0 is still 0. So yeah, there is one.
We need the hangover like equations going on in the background for you, right?
Let me figure this out. Yeah, you're talking to a history major right now. There's a reason there were journalism classes taken at Hillsdale, not math.
Right there with you.
But they open the season on October the 23rd, home against Indiana. So nice to have a home opener be your season opener. I always love that. You do have then 3 of your next 4 games on the road. And of course, like Alex mentioned, the biggest thing is getting a nationally televised game. I remember, and this might still be the case, it's definitely still the case with the Lakers. There was, when Bronny was a rookie in high school, a freshman, his team, what was it, Sierra Canyon, had more nationally televised games than the Pistons.
Yeah.
And the Pistons now have 1. It's February 7th. They play at home against Philly, which will get our asses beat. So that sort of sucks. But nice to see that we get 1 as opposed to none. And to be honest, if I'm whoever the hell is in charge of setting up this schedule, why would I give them more than 1? Why would I give them even 1? So who knows? But
you got to give them 1.
You got to give
nice
them
1 to at least
throw a bone.
Make it. Yeah, you have to at least throw them a bone. You can't completely screw them. I would have been pissed if we didn't have at least 1. Like 1 is all I think we deserve.
It's not uncommon to not see us with 1 or no nationally televised games. Regardless, it's nice to see us taking, and it's the same with the Red Wings, who just had their schedule released, a step towards like we really are hitting. It's the same with watching preseason for the NFL. We're that close to sports, baby.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll be honest, I don't have much in terms of headlines for the Wings. But they've been putting out like their top plays from last season. It just gets you gassed up for this year.
I know,
obviously
it's hype, baby.
Having Patty Kane back is going to be huge. I think we've I still don't understand the Wallman trade. I'm still a little frustrated after that, but kind of filled some voids at goalie.
I
Yeah, I mean
actually,
it's right around the corner, and I think it's one of those things where I think there's a strong chance of a wild card spot.
hmm, I don't want to induce a rant if it's not deserving of one, but I did actually see an article. I don't know if it was The Athletic or ESPN, detailing the thoughts of why over the last few months or the last year or so the trust in the Red Wings front office has sort of been on a decline or a steady downward slope. Yzerman maybe doesn't have, or fans don't have as much trust in the Yzer plan as they did before. I know that was something that we have talked about on the show and off the air. How are we feeling with that? Obviously, especially after the trade that you expected and so many others did to pan into something else.
I got a big old question mark on it right now. And I'll be honest, I think we haven't seen, hopefully this year we'll see enough of, the guys that he's drafted and the guys that he's brought up and tried to develop, like they'll come up. I think he's been there, what? I think he started when was he hired? It wasn't 2018. Um,
Come on, Alex.
Come on. I think it's kind of one of those trust the process things in a
Sure.
way. Yeah, 2019 he was named the GM. He's been here for 5 years, and we've seen one or two of the guys that he's drafted up, and
Sure.
obviously Razor's been great. Sider's been, I think last year had a bit of a rough year, but other than that, he was pretty good. Um, you'll see guys like Edvidson. Eventually, you'll see Casper. I don't think we've seen a full Yzerman team on the ice yet. In terms of what he's drafted and what he can develop. Now, in terms of free agent signings, it hasn't made too much sense to me. You're never going to hear me shit on the DeBrincat signing. You're never going to hear me shit on the Kane signing. But giving up Wallman, and like when defense was a huge, huge need at the end of last year, made no sense to me. And again, there's always going to be things that you don't know, things behind the scenes that people don't realize, and I think that's important to obviously like keep in mind. But I've got a big question mark on it right now. I'm very, very excited because it's going to be entertaining Wings hockey like it was last year. But again, we went however long without having that before, so it'll be interesting. But I don't. If we don't make the playoffs this year, I think it'll finally be time to start questioning, like, okay, what's actually going on here?
That's fair. Do we have picks of the week? I know we do. We've got a ton of them, and we referenced at the top of the show. Uh, go to our Substack. We've got plenty of bets and lots of spelled out reasoning for all those bets. So we'll give you little snippets here of a minute or two explanation for why we're betting or making the bets we are. But you get, you can really take your time and get exclusive content on the Pure Michigan Sports Substack that you're not going to get anywhere else. And I'll start here just while you're getting ready. I've got one future for you, and this is actually a sneak peek to a Substack article that's going to come out in a few days here, so get ready for that. I've got Utah to make the college football playoff. We're loving our college football playoff futures right now. They're plus 210 to make the playoff. They're new in the Big 12 this year. It's their first season there. And the trouble, of course, going from the Pac 12 to the Big 12 is physicality and what you lacked over on the coast. I think that they are the most physical, or were the most physical, hard-nosed team in that conference, and they bring it into the Big 12. Really, they hang their hat on defense, as they should, but getting Cam Rising back is massive as well. And as always, when you're looking at a path to the playoffs, whether you win the Big 12 or not, I think they'll still make it. You got to look at the strength of schedule. It's 60th in the country, and they get through their first season in the Big 12 without having to play either Kansas. Kansas and Kansas State could be two each 10-win teams this season, and they don't even have to touch the conference, or the conference favorite, Utah, doesn't even have to touch them. They're at Oklahoma State, and they're home against Arizona. Those are the only two ranked games on their schedule. And that might change. Iowa State might get a number next to their name and they play at home against the Cyclones. But I think you've got a lot of options with this team, a great defense, and I've got them plus 210 to make the college football playoff.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to tease one. I'll give out two this week. One, I've got let me see here, under 5.5 regular season wins for South Carolina. The blog will be up on that pretty soon. So go read that and you'll see why. I'm going to roll with that one. The other one I've got is it was a live bet. I wonder if I can figure out when I placed it. I would have placed it about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Phillies National League winner, live bet. I got it at plus 210. Right now on MGM, let me take a look. It is, they're plus 220. I think that's an easy hammer. I think the Dodgers are choke artists. And I think the Phillies they're very back and forth, but I think come playoff time, this is a group that, knows that they can do well. They didn't have to go out and bring in a Jack Flaherty. They already had their roster. They had their guys, and it's proven it. They've done well with it. That's my kind of mid-season play for baseball, at least right now. I'd definitely go hammer that one against Phillies to win the National League, not the World Series, but to win the National League. So really, they'd only have to overcome like the Dodgers or whoever's around there. So go hammer that. I don't have anything for an on this day this week. I just realized I didn't look into that as much as I probably should, because I feel like now, because there isn't anything, there's definitely, because we didn't do research, there probably is something interesting. But you know what? Go pay attention to the blog. Go pay attention to the blog. So
Phillies, by the way, right now are tied with the Dodgers at the top of the NL.
This is true. True.
That's all we've got. Thank you so much for joining us this week for episode 16 of Pure Michigan Sports. Drop the follow. Go on all of our socials. Find them. Subscribe on the Substack. Until next week.